All right, friends, what do you think? Does God have a plan for your life? Like, honestly, do you think that God has a plan for your life? Well, here in Acts chapter 23, things are starting to get really tough for Paul. Paul is sent before the Jewish high priest council, and Paul is bold. He's just running his mouth with this council. He calls out the high priest on his hypocrisy. He tells him these things. He calls him things like a whitewashed wall, which in the Bible means hypocrite, meaning that he seems clean on the outside, but just on the backside, it's absolutely filthy. And then Paul does these things to get the council sort of really riled up. He brings up the hope of the resurrection of the dead. Now, the Pharisees, which is the tradition that Paul came out of, the Pharisees believe in the resurrection of the dead, but then the Sadducees, they don't believe in the resurrection of the dead. So Paul knows that he is poking the bear. You can think about it this way, but how Lutherans and Baptists, we sort of disagree on baptism. Lutherans, we believe in baptizing infants. Baptists believe in baptizing at the age of accountability. And then the debate just sort of gets going, and then it turns, in Paul's case, it turns violent. Chapter 23 is drama, my friends. It becomes violent, and Paul is taken to the barracks in order to protect him from being hurt. He has riled everybody up so much that now he's being protected as a prisoner. Think of him as like in protective custody. And it's interesting because here we read that the Romans are protecting Paul because Paul is a Roman citizen. It's not the religious leaders of the time. They are not the ones who are interested in protecting Paul. The religious leaders of the time, they're actually plotting to kill Paul. It's in verse 11 that I find so interesting. It says, about that night, after all the drama at this council, that night the Lord stood near Paul. Love that. And says, keep up your courage. For just as you have testified for me in Jerusalem, you must also bear witness in Rome. Oh my gosh, is this God's plan for Paul's life? You see, God is encouraging Paul, convicting Paul right in the middle of this huge conflict moment. He's sitting there saying all this conflict was coming. I know you poked the bear, but keep up your courage, Paul. My friends, are you worried about your future? Are you facing challenges and opposition and people who disagree with you? Are you facing a time of crisis? Does it feel like there's plans to sort of plot against you? You see, for Paul, there was. And for many of us, there is too. The Romans, they had one plan for Paul and Paul's life, and the Jewish leaders and the Sanhedrin, they had another plan. In the midst of all of this, God uses all of these things in order to direct God's plan for Paul's life. You see, I think when we talk about God's plan for our lives, we use it to apply usually some platitudes during difficult times. Like when someone loses a pregnancy and someone says to them, well, it was God's plan. But here's the truth. If it was in God's plan, I don't think that God would just invite us to kind of do those things. Instead, what God says is to us is the same thing that God says to Paul. Keep up your courage. Keep up your courage. Keep up your courage. You see, I think Paul had the choice, if he was just going to give up right then and there, or if he was going to make his way to Rome. I think God would have been with him both directions. Keep up your courage. The truth is that Paul lived a life that was both surrendered and letting God match his steps. But Paul also used his own action and had a choice in order to go and accomplish those things. I think when I think about a plan for our lives, I think it's both. I think God is going to be with us no matter what path we choose. And I do think that God's got something for us just on the other side of this. So wherever you are right now, whether it's a time of action or a time of surrender, hear this encouraging word. Keep up your courage. God has got you.